Hi, I'm Hedy Weiss, theater and dance critic for the Chicago Sun-Times, and welcome to Curtain Call. We are kind of in an embarrassment of riches season right now. There are just an incredible number of shows, especially at smaller theaters, that are just extraordinary. The first show is Crime and Punishment. It's at Mary Archie Theater. It's the perfect environment to see a kind of dark, police procedural psychological play based on the novel by Dostoevsky. The play is 90 airtight minutes. This is the story of Raskolnikov, the sort of starving but superior feeling student who decides that he has the right to murder an old woman who he thinks doesn't have as much value, and if he can get her money, he will be able to do wonderful things. Of course, it never works quite like that, and really the gist of this 90-minute show is the inspector who knows that Raskolnikov is guilty, but he's not going to just handcuff him. He's going to do a kind of psychological analysis and pull the truth out of him, and they both know that they're playing a cat and mouse game, and it's rather fascinating to watch. The second play is Strangers' Babies. This is by a Scottish writer, Linda McLean, and it's being done at Steep Theatre. Terrific acting. This is a very dark play also. In the beginning, it starts with a woman just talking to her husband, very ordinary. The woman is being played by an actress named Sasha Joppo. She's really wonderful, and she kind of keeps the whole thing going because you see her in conversations, first with her husband, then with her father, then with a guy that she's connected to on the internet, and very dark, dicey connection, and then with her brother. And you see all of these conversations, and you're not quite sure what happened in the past that is still thwarting her, that is still bothering her. You keep listening and you keep trying to figure it out. I'm not 100% sure that I understand what happened in the little park outside of her family's house when she was young, but it happened, and it has affected her entire life. And also her decision about whether or not to have a child, and whether she can really be reborn in some ways. So this is another very intense production. Again, it's at Steep Theatre at Storefront up on the north side. And then there are 5 other plays which I have actually written about, but I really want to remind you about how wonderful they are. One is called Plain Song. It's a Signal ensemble production. It is a stage adaptation of a novel by Keith Haruf set in the Colorado Plains, where there are a lot of farmers, but there's also a town that is sort of like an hour town of the far west. And it's contemporary. And what we see is a very troubled family, a husband with a wife who's suffering from severe depression, 2 adorable sons, and they are superbly played by the 2 young actors. And then all the people in the town. The father is a teacher. He has a relationship with one of the women in the school. He also has a student who gets into trouble. She's pregnant, and one of the wonderful scenes in this is when she's kind of farmed out to 2 old bachelor ranchers who take her in and sort of see her through her pregnancy. There is a lot of very heartbreaking stuff in this, and also a lot of great humor. And it's a huge cast in a tiny theater, and they do an absolutely fabulous job. Again, that's Signal Ensemble Theater in Plain Song. And then there's an old Irish classic, Playboy of the Western World, and I've seen many versions of this. And I have to say that the one that's being done now at Raven Theater is absolutely sensational. I will admit that I went in there and said, you know, tell me something new about Playboy of the Western World. And in fact, they did. It's wonderfully directed, wonderfully acted, and the whole thing takes place in this kind of Irish bar house, and it's a fabulous set by a designer named Andre Onegin, which is worth the price of admission all by itself, and that runs till April 5th. Another very well-known play, but one that isn't always done in an intimate setting, and I think it really makes it almost stronger, is Amadeus, and this is about the rivalry between Salieri, the court composer, who understands that he is a mediocrity compared to his younger peer, Mozart, who arrives on the scene. But of course, Salieri thrives during his lifetime, and Mozart is absolutely penniless and sort of artistically destroyed, even though, of course, he produces unbelievable music. This is being done by Boho Ensemble, and it's a terrific production. Every aspect of it is great. The acting, the design, the direction, and also what you realize is Peter Shaffer's play has a real touch of genius to it. It really makes you think about a million different things. It's really worth seeing. And then there's Golden Boy, which I just saw a couple of days ago. This is a Clifford Odets classic from the Depression era, but it is so timely in terms of what, do you pursue your career as an artist and sort of be starving and not really follow your dream, or do you go into the boxing ring because you have a talent for that too and sell your soul because you want to be rich and famous? And the language, I would say, some might find it a little antique, a little 1930s, but it is so powerfully done. And Nate Santana, the guy who plays the young violinist turned prize fighter, gives a terrific performance. This is also a large cast production, and Jonathan Barry has directed it with great, great style. Finally, Chicago's Golden Soul. It's being done at the Black Ensemble Theater. It's kind of a companion piece to their long-running Curtis Mayfield story. And I would go to see this just to see Lawrence Williams, an actor who I've seen in a number of Black Ensemble Theater productions, just burst out. He does a rendition of Summertime that is so brilliant, it's worth the price of admission. A lot to see. Just book your weekend. Thanks, and I'm Hedy Weiss for Curtain Call.